Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. We are very happy to have you here today to talk about something a little bit different from usual because we're talking about mindset and wellness. But you know what? Wellness also comes from your house, your environment, what you have around you. And one of the things that I love to see is when you go to a house, you have a plant, you have light, wonderful diffuse light, and then you have pictures on the wall, maybe photographs of your family, which indicate how much you love them. But some people really like paintings or sculptures or something else. And I always thought, what makes you buy something? Do you buy because it's on Etsy, because it's trendy, because it's at the range in the UK? Or do you buy because there is a special meaning from your point of view, artistic point of view, historical point of view? Like, are you fixated with a period of art where art was beautiful for you and then nothing else? What is your real reason and why you feel a little bit weird when that art on the wall isn't quite fitting for you? I thought it was a really interesting topic, so I want to talk about it with a CEO, owner, and chief curator at the Sparks Gallery in San Diego, and her name is Sonya Sparks. So I'm very happy to have you here. Sonya, say hello to everyone.
Hi, Franz. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to our conversation today.
Me too, and I have so many questions. What do you do exactly day to day to run this gallery? You are the chief curator, so what's going on there?
Yes, so I founded Sparks Gallery in downtown San Diego in 2013. So I've been operating as the CEO, chief curator, and we keep a pretty small team of people and curators and staff just because there's a lot going on, but we have a lot of control over what we can do because we keep it small. So I have had over, I would say, about 12 years of experience for just the gallery itself, and then, of course, some extra time building the gallery. And I typically will curate for what our clients are looking for, and that is in certain types of work. And we also specialize in Southern California artists, but we do have some outside of the region, such as in Mexico, and then a few across the United States who have once been in the Southern California region, but then moved. So we have a pretty diverse range because we are just primarily focused on the region. So we have photography, sculpture, paintings, and then we have different themes, as I mentioned, that are curatorial collections that we gear towards our clientele.
Mm. So you are a very busy lady and also a busy mom, and you're doing lots of things and talking to lots of people. That must be so exciting. Also choosing which art is going to sell within your region, because obviously I'm not going to come from New York to your place. Your local people or travelers might go there and find something. How do we choose this art? That's very interesting because sometimes we buy the art, but it actually doesn't fit us. And I know you have like a framework, so there must be a personality trait, and we'll talk about them in the end, when you have this quiz. So, which personality trait is surprising people when they see that is manifested in their art choices? I'm so curious about this.
Yeah, so I'll back up a little bit and just give you a little bit of background so that yeah, I can answer those questions. So as I was working with the gallery clients, I noticed some things about how people interact with art and what they are drawn to. And sometimes people collect art trends, or they collect art based on trends, and then they end up with a home that doesn't fully reflect who they are. And the art feels disconnected from their identity and sometimes their values. And sometimes the placement of the art is also not right in the space, which could be a factor as well. But I realized something about the frustrations that the clients were having, and they were wondering, are they making the right choice? They're wondering if they were missing something when they buy something that they might regret later. And deep down, they're thinking, what if I get something that I end up with that I do not connect with? And that's the fear that a lot of clients will have when they're wondering. They're in the gallery and they're looking at it and they think they're feeling something, but they're not quite sure sometimes. They don't know if that connection is going to resonate with them over time. So here's where it started for me. I remember I was sitting down with my mom for lunch one day, and I remember having a cup of coffee in front of me, and I just could not taste the coffee that day, even though it smelled amazing, and I was just really not focusing on that because I was frustrated with my current job, and I knew I was doing good work in my job, but I realized it was not my life's purpose. And I talked it out with my mom, and she said to me at one point, well, if you could do anything, what would you do? And I reflexively answered, start an art gallery. And I immediately felt relief when I said this phrase, which was kind of shocking to me because I'd been ruminating over it for some time. You know, what do I do with myself? And then I felt that this path suddenly opened up for me in front of my eyes that I just didn't know was there. It was it just came out of me. And so she gave me the permission to follow my heart to a career that not only offered inspiration, but connection and freedom. And I didn't need to keep going down that path that I felt was no longer best for me. And I listened to my instinct, and then I realized that this moment showed me that when you understand what you're drawn to, and then you learn to trust that instinct, your choices become more meaningful and lasting. And this was also pivotal in my realization years later. So when I was working with clients after several years after I opened the gallery, and we knew what types and styles of art resonated with our clients, I was developing a written client-facing framework that you mentioned earlier for our specific collecting experience. And essentially, this is what the clients receive through our curation and buying experience. So when they are in the gallery, how they approach the work and how we respond to them and serve them. And this framework is called the Sparks approach, based on the name of my gallery, Sparks Gallery. And we not only, it's kind of a great name, it's my last name, but we work that in for that spark that the client has when they immediately resonate with a piece of art and they feel an actual, almost electrical connection, the spark in their physical body, and then also mentally they have this connection to the piece. And so that's the spark, that's the first segment of our framework. And then the second segment is called the connection. So it's about connecting to the artist's story and then resonating with that part of the artist's life that they've put into that piece of artwork. And then the third one was the legacy. So that's something that leaves them never second guessing their choice because they have resonated in those first two tiers of the approach, where they have the spark and they know the artist's story and they build that connection so that they know that their values are going to be aligning with that piece over time. So in building this framework to provide the value for the clients, we also refined our curation categories to surround what they were gravitating towards. And I realized that that it was built on the realization that I had sitting down to lunch with my mom. And that was essentially when you do the inner work to know who you really are and what you value, this is where the magic happens. And understanding your personality type can reveal what kinds of art actually speak to you and why. And collecting then becomes more meaningful instead of decorative, and it allows you to make deeper connections with others through the intuitive pull to certain artworks that you may not be able to explain. Even you can feel it, but you just can't explain it in your body.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I love it. So it's a lot deeper than people might think. You have to really go down to see, what do I want? Why do I want it? Then look and how you respond to this art. And I love to see that you have a very personal journey in this, and all the artists in your gallery will have the journey. Why am I doing this art? And how am I transmitting this to my audience? And then the audience brings the message So in fact, some pieces of art, I think, oh, I don't even know what that is, but I really like it because it's got this message. And when you buy that art, not doesn't have to be always beautiful or aesthetically pleasing for everyone, but it has to talk to you. The same, I think, for photography. There are photographs that are even scary, but because they have such a meaning, we bring them home. And going forward here, I always talk about the joy of creating. In fact, if I had a second name to give to my podcast, instead of Create with Franz, would be the joy of creating, because it gives you joy to create something that wasn't there before. And when we own a piece of art, whether it's photography or sculpture or whatever, we have something from this piece of art that gives us happiness every day when we look at it. How is your experience when you have art every day? So when you look at this, what is that you actually feel? Because you almost own them because they're there. So do you feel like, do you grow with them? I'm curious because as a curator, you might have a different relationship compared to just a consumer, a buyer. So what are your feelings for all your creatures, and when they leave a gallery, do you miss them?
Well, they are definitely different types of art that we show, and I do resonate personally with some of the artists' work. And the types of work that I collect and I resonate with are going to be different than other people's art collecting styles, because not only the values that I hold or the interest that I have in certain types of themes and styles, but again, that collecting style is also going to be reflective from my personality type in a way. So, and as an artist, I practiced photography a long time ago before I started the gallery, and I knew that art could provide benefits and physical changes to the mind, and there's reasons for why you're resonating with something. And so I did learn through personality type, through the values and everything like that. But I couldn't articulate a lot of these until I explored these ideas through the gallery ownership. And then I also had recently read some books on the subject of why people seek out art. So I just wanted to mention one that I thought was particularly helpful for me recently to kind of bring that all together in my mind. It's called Your Brain on Art by Susan Magsamen and Ivy Ross. And so they are, Susan is from Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine, and Ivy is the VP Design for Hardware for Google. And they did a really deep dive into the reasons for the brain itself connecting to the art. So I recommend that because, as I said, it was really helpful to bring some things into focus. And then there was another author, Todd Kashdan, who wrote Curious, and has more to the title. It's Discover the Missing Ingredient to a Fulfilling Life. And I liked how he mentioned that curiosity is an important first step, because with curiosity and then awe, connection and storytelling and reverence, and then connection to nature through art, there are measurable changes in the brain that help us create a rich, meaningful life through both the connection to others, and that physically changes our brain chemistry. So instead of being a nicety, I believe art is actually a necessity, because we innately seek it out because it brings feel-good endorphins and it builds these neurological connections. And I also think that, our species developed with the ability to imagine and to forge bonds through stories to help us survive and innovate to prosper. So, think of campfire gatherings, and when people get together and they tell stories, it's the same thing with a physical piece of art. Just, it's kind of like that story just manifested into a physical, tangible item that you can carry with you and remind you of that story. And there's been an emergence of experiential art exhibits lately that involve a multisensory experience. And I've also been using that to draw from the inspiration of that ancient communal gathering through meals and storytelling to bring art together, and through food and experience, and just connecting with another human being.
I love this connection part because I think when we are interacting with art, we are connecting to ourselves and to the artist. And I always wonder the next time that we are buying pictures to put on the wall, what is it we should ask ourselves before choosing? If at all the same level, all good, all amazing, they all look good on our wall, the color palette is correct. So how do I choose? It is so much harder nowadays. It's online, it's in wallpaper, it's in textiles, it's in painting. But how do I choose? I think sometimes it's so bewildering or bewildering. How do you say that in English? Help me to choose.
Yeah, how do you know? So uh, I did develop a quiz that we have on our website. It's at sparksgallery.com/quiz. And this quiz helps, it gives you some questions so the system can select which personality type you are based on your collecting style. So that's a tool that I welcome people to take a look and see which personality type best matches what collecting type you are. About how people can know why they are resonating with something, or how to make that decision when they are in front of a piece of artwork. And the way to identify that would be to know your personality type and your collecting type, which is on that quiz that I'm sure you will link in the notes. And also, it's part of our approach also. So it's that first spark that I mentioned. If you don't feel in the first 3 seconds something that's grabbing you for a piece of artwork, it's probably not going to grow on you too much later. If you think about it for 3 seconds and then you move on, and it's still kind of in the back of your mind as you're moving through the rest of the artwork and looking through the exhibit or the show that's there, then you're not going to really resonate with it long term, because there's usually a connection that happens right away, and it's the chemistry kicking in your brain that's really reflecting that. And we don't look for what necessarily matches your sofa. We look for what shifts your heart rate, and that's a metric that will not fade over time. And that connection is also really important. So knowing the artist's story and then really connecting to whoever is presenting that artwork, whether it be the artist themselves who is presenting it to you or the gallery, you should ask about the story. So if you do not resonate with that story that's behind the work, then over time you're not going to be feeling it, when it's in your house. And so you're connecting to another human being through that work. So you really want to know that you are aligned with the values and the story that that person has. And that could be a huge, more rich experience for you, depending on your personality type. There's one particular personality type where they don't necessarily need to have that connection. But the clients that we show in our gallery, or the clients that we cater to in our gallery, do typically tend to be of 2 specific personality types. So they resonate really well with the personality, or I mean the story behind the artwork. So we make it a huge part of what we do is to have that connection in that story. For some other galleries, they cater to that personality type that may not need that story to connect with it.
Okay.
And you can find out that through the quiz. And so trust your first emotional reaction is really, I think, the goal for one of the tips for patrons and art appreciators who go into an art gallery. And ask questions and just know what your personality type is so that you can make really good decisions and have that longevity and really love and appreciate your collection for many, many years.
Right. And here comes a question you never expected. So you told us what a client does when he goes to a gallery, to a catalog, and looks at a piece of art and says, "Hmm, I really feel." So what is the difference if you are an art gallery curator and you are looking for the art that you want to sell? How do you know that you are connected well to this piece of art and your audience will? So how do you balance? Is there a bias there? So this art gallery is this style because the curator or the owner likes this style, and that's the only thing that will resonate with them. Explain a little bit, because there must be this science has to apply both ways, right? So how do you choose?
Well, what's interesting is my personality type is not the same personality type of my majority of my clients. So I just have to keep that in mind when I'm selecting work. But you will probably see some of that influence in my curation style, where I am what I call the conscientious collector. And that's very detail oriented and very attuned to the specific mediums and the methods that the piece is made in, and that I think comes from my photography background. But there's two other personality types that are more prominent in the collections that I build for my clients, and that's going to be the connected collector and the compassionate collector. And those two, as I mentioned, are very drawn to the story behind the work and connecting to the artists. And so when I select work for the gallery, I will curate towards those two personality types primarily. But you will probably see some of my influence with that selection of material type and story and the meticulous detail of work kind of fit in there a little bit as well. And we do have a couple of curation categories that fit all four personality types, but we focus mainly on those main two because we serve mostly those two types of collectors.
Okay, so is this geographically connected? So, in an art gallery in New York, you will sell certain types of art different from Florida, from Tennessee, from Athens, from Africa. Is there a difference there? So, you have to really anticipate that if you are an artist, because this podcast talks also to a large audience of artists worldwide. So, and many of them in New York and in London. So, does it mean then that an artist they want to send their art for submission to London is not sending the same thing to New York? Just to simplify.
Each gallery has their own curation style and their different client base. So this is actually a kind of a separate topic, but I do mentor artists who do want to get into a gallery and they're not sure if they are approaching the right gallery at the right time, if they are saying the right things, and if their materials and marketing assets are aligned and ready. And this is another program that I have been offering to artists lately because, as I had mentioned, I was an artist before I started the gallery. That's one of the reasons why I started the gallery, was because there were not as many opportunities for local artists to show work as I felt that there should be. So I created my own space, and I was not able to serve every artist. But, because we've had these clients kind of identify what types of work they gravitate towards. So there's going to be other artists that are passionate and create great work but don't fit my specific group of clientele. And so I developed this new program called Gateway to Galleries. It's gatewaytogalleries.com is the website for that, and it's the word to, T-O, Gateway to Galleries. And that's a program that I have been mentoring artists through to get into galleries, to know what they should be doing for each gallery, because there's so many different things. And part of that program is that I interview other gallery owners so that they can be educated on what galleries actually are looking for when they do. Those galleries have their own curation styles and personality type clients.
That's great information. I am so thankful, because sometimes it's hard for an artist even a very good one, to go to the right place to be noticed by the right people. So, you can't sell ice cream to the penguins, can you? You have to go to the people who are looking for ice cream. And the same is for, that's always a bad example, but that's me improvising as usual. But it's important to know that art isn't for everyone. Not all art is for every single person. We all have likes, dislikes, and this storytelling, the human connections are so different. And I want to ask you a last question. You had a job that was giving you the money you wanted, but was not making you feel fulfilled. And when it came from your heart, the answer to your mom was, oh, yeah, I would rather have an art gallery. So here's the $100 million question. Are you happy now? How does it feel to have your own art gallery?
Yeah, I feel very fulfilled, and it's definitely a lot of work. It's a big challenge all the time to be able to serve everybody, and I just feel that it comes really naturally to me. So since that moment, I have really just listened to my heart. As I said, that's I think the key to it is to listen to your heart for everything, because your body knows and your mind knows, and there's actual physical changes that are measurable that go into that, which I learned through some of those materials that I read and that I have been hearing from people throughout the industry over the years. So trusting your instincts, and just that's what I do now. So I go fearlessly forward. If I feel that there's something I really want to do and a special show that I want to show, then I just do it, and it's full creative control, which I absolutely love. And so there's actually, you can have two personality types. The personality type quiz that I have is primarily just the first main one, but there are subtypes that you can have as well based on the DISC profile. So it's DISC that this quiz is based on. So my other personality type is the confident collector, and that's the one that is very forward driven, very quick decision making. So they kind of fight with each other sometimes, where I'm very meticulous, but also I make very, very quick, just confident decisions all the time. So I can really see how that came out for me in the personality quiz for myself. And it makes so much sense, knowing your personality and being able to move forward in your career, knowing how you work and how you work with other people and how you present yourself in the community. So I am really enjoying learning all these things, and I always, I learn something new every day. So I love to listen to podcasts, and I'm going to be going through all the episodes of yours that I haven't listened to as well, because you've been doing great work and sharing all these inspirations with everybody, and I truly appreciate it.
Thank you. I did not give her $100 for this comment, so so this is so great, and there are a lot more episodes covering this and why art and the human matter is more important, the human prime we've been calling you. So don't worry, if you are an artist or a buyer, you will be able to differentiate what is AI slop and what is real art that connects you. And the big difference is probably that although AI art or like is printed stuff from a warehouse can be beautiful to look at, can be perfect and shiny and polished, but it's just not talking to your heart. There is no story because a computer cannot tell you the story how he had a tragic breakup, a 15-year-old with their boyfriend. We just cannot tell you that. So when we have this story, if you read about Van Gogh and all these famous people, they were painting, there was a reason. And sometimes, it's in the lowest part of our life when we come out with the best art because we have so much to give. And that's what you see in history. That's probably what we're going to see in the future. And so I don't know if there is anything else you wanted to say before we close, but what message would you like to leave to our audience of artists and art buyers regarding art in general? Anything, just feel free.
Yeah, I think besides following your heart, I think that having a support system and someone to fall onto when you are not sure what you're supposed to be doing or which direction to take or what's next on your artist path. I learned that with my mother being a big supporting person in my life. And as I reflect on that, I think that that's really valuable to have that sounding board and that feedback and then a mentor to help you. So if you're an artist, I think finding someone who is farther on that path to just give you some guidance would be really, really valuable. And, if you're thinking about going into the arts, then there's definitely things that you can learn by immersing yourself in the arts industry and then finding a mentor in the arts as well. And when I started as well, I did that, and I learned from other gallery owners before I started. So it wasn't just out of the blue. I was learning from a mentor there. And then I also actively work with a business mentor because, you can't always operate in a vacuum by yourself, and a lot of artists do that. And I think it's really helpful to have somebody to support you when you feel like you're just in your studio all day long, just working and just not sure what to do. And then for clients, I think, there's so many artists, so many talented artists out there, and they are really brought together well in galleries. And I think galleries are really still an amazing place where you can see real tangible art and get away from all of the online things like Franz, like you said, the AI that you just are not even sure where it came from or what it is, and it's not resonating with you. When you're physically in front of a physical piece of art and it's an analog experience, you will have that connection. And so I urge clients to go in and really have that moment and connect in person.
That is so good. And I'm so glad you listened to the past episode. I just wanted to remind here the audience that we do have a little bit more coming out. We have poetry with Robert Menicucci coming on the 2nd of May. So how poetry helps you. And art and poetry go so well together as well. You can listen to poetry, listen to music, and look at the art. And then we also have Jaylene Singleton, who in the middle of May will tell us how to turn art, any art form, into a business. And she brought workshops. And I think she's exactly there where you are in California. And you might know her, but I'll put you in touch.
Yeah, that would be great.
There's also Silvia Barrero, who is a Latina. I don't remember if it was Colombia or something. She'll be there in April, and she will talk about turning master into a high value brand, all in the arts. And then later we go to study ADHD and how that interferes with our ability to focus on things. And that's going to be with a PhD in psychologist, Connie. And I'm so looking forward. I'm recording again with her. So much going on here to help you guys to get that mental wellness high there. Because we all need it, don't we? Art, it's one of the things. You have some music, you have your guitar, you listen, I don't know, Pink Floyd for me, Bee Gees, on that generation. And making art, the texture, touching something, isn't that amazing? And so it's just so good to go to an art gallery and just sit there and just be. And just interact. As when we go into nature, we're not judging the leaves, we're just embracing the beauty. And so I'm glad to have artists and art curators and art galleries owners, workshop art therapists, everything that has to do with art, because it helps us to be happy. So I want to thank you so much, Sonya Sparks of San Diego Sparks Gallery. Thank you for making us happy with your shared story of curating amazing art. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Franz.
You guys, we have only a few minutes, actually 1 minute and 11 seconds. So thank you for being here. And you want to look at all the other links for any similar episodes to see what else is there to sustain and support you in these difficult times where, a lot of things are uncertain, but the beauty of art is always there. So remember to click like and subscribe. We'll see you all next week. Bye.